How can I join the live? Okay. Good afternoon, Cornelia. I'm hoping you're hearing. Because now this thing's sticking. What's wrong? Is it sticking? I'm seeing one person viewing. Okay, so from the live I can see one person is viewing, so I'm gonna start because it's already 10 past 1. Those who cannot make it to the live directly, you'll view it after and you will work along. Okay, so that's it there. Alrighty then, 2 people viewing, that's good enough for me. So welcome to today's class. Sorry for my slight absence for the last couple days. I was ill and I really couldn't make it. If I could have made it, I would have made it. Alright, I was basically in bedridden. So thank you very much for joining today. Kaylon, go back. Yes, I said to go in the bedroom. Yes, sorry for the delay. Right, so we're going to continue with our class where we left off. We are doing persuasive writing. And persuasive writing requires you to have certain tips and tricks and techniques in presenting your information so that your information is sound and concise and coherent logically enough so that you can persuade somebody to hold your opinion. And we said that there's a specific structure for this type of writing, and we have narrowed it down to the 5-paragraph type of writing. So the 5 paragraphs would give you enough information in a structured manner so that you can Yes, it can give you enough information in a structured manner so that you can persuade your readers or your audience to hold your opinion. Now, looking at the 5-paragraph structure, we already got into our pre-writing phase or pre-writing stage of the writing process. And the pre-writing stage requires that we do our research on the topic. So we basically research information about the topic so that we, the writer, the authors, will be well versed and knowledgeable in whatever opinion that we hold, because it's not enough to have an opinion, but the opinion must also be steeped in fact. So we have to do our research. When we are researching what it is we are looking for, we are researching information that is going to be relevant to the topic. Things like definitions so that we know what we're talking about. Things like contextualize the information. When I say contextualize information, why is this information important for us to know? And why is your stance important for others to have? Then you would have to figure out who would be the audience you're trying to convince with this particular stance. So who would be the type of people who would be against your stance? And that in itself would require you to have a knowledge of what people generally think about the topic. Okay? So you have your stance already. You have your research information. As you develop a rationale, as you develop a reasoning around the topic, you will also find factual information that supports your rationale so that it's a logically based decision. So your logically based decision is where you're getting your factual information. Excuse me, 5 seconds, please. Okay, so sorry for the delay. So we should be at a point right now where we understand what it is we're looking to convey to our audience, and we understand what it is we want our audience to have as their opinion at the end of our session. Right? Good afternoon, Davine and Kenelia. Thank you for joining. So we have already constructed our introductory paragraph based on the information that we have researched. So for our introductory paragraph, you should already have by now your introductory sentence, which is your sentence that is going to grab the reader's attention. Why should I read this thing? What is the importance of this thing? What does this thing or the information surrounding this thing going to do for my edification, for my upliftment, for my understanding? Why should I learn this thing? So you grab the reader's attention with a statement, and this statement can be a quotation surrounding the topic. It can be a fun fact or quick fact surrounding the topic. It can be a small story that puts the topic into context. We call them an anecdote. Or it can simply be some sort of statistical information or current event or newspaper clip or something that puts it in context. After you're finished getting your introductory sentence that allows your reader to know this is what we're talking about and this is why I should know this thing, the next thing that we're going to look at is your definitions and your clarifications. What about your topic is ambiguous, right? Is the topic ambiguous because you're looking at a specific demographic? How is this demographic defined? When we talk about teenagers, do we mean teenagers whose numbers end with teens, or we mean youngsters who are below the age of voting, which is 18? So would 19 be considered a teenager in the context of your essay, or is it not in the context of your essay? So we clarify and we define all of the terms in our topic that we consider ambiguous to the reader. Then we will go on to state contextual information, why this information is relevant at this particular time, and then we establish what is our stance and our 3 main points that we are going to use to persuade our reader as to why they should hold our stance. This is where you should be at in your essay right now. If you're not there, you can simply indicate that you are struggling, if you are struggling, or if you just haven't gotten around to it. Then I'm hoping that at the end of this period, you should be able to have both your introductory paragraph and your body. Now, why is having your introductory paragraph important before you move on to your body? Because your body is where you're going to start developing your points. And you cannot develop your points unless you have a thesis statement. And your thesis statement comes in your introductory paragraph. It is a sentence that includes the 3 main points that you're going to develop. So for this session, we're actually going to look at developing your first main point. In the notes, you have a persuasive essay about the Ebola virus and Nigerian students or African students. I wrote a persuasive essay on that topic, should Nigerian students be allowed in the country given the recent Ebola outbreak. And that's an old topic that was there for a while, but I reused the notes. However, for the purpose of today, you can simply let me know what are your topics, and we can go ahead and formulate an essay around that. Kenelia sent me her essay. Kenelia did her 5 paragraphs, and there were some things in there I wanted to touch on, but we can use Kenelia's essay as a rubric. So for her introduction, she already stated that her 3 main points are, her topic is teachers should not be given excessive amount of homework, right? So her topic was teachers should not give excessive amount of homework, and the first point that she had was the workload on students, excessive workload on students. So that's what I'm going to use as an example today. So she has already structured her introductory paragraph. Let's say we already have the introductory paragraph. Now we're going to look at how you're going to do your body. Over here, I don't know if you can see it very clearly, but over here on the board it says sentence 1, topic sentence, sentence 2, rationale, sentence 3, factual data, sentence 4, persuasive technique and linkage, sentence 5, censure statement. And these are going to be the sentences that are going to compose your paragraph. Now, a lot of people, when they hear you have to write a 5-paragraph essay, they start to bawl, oh Lord, 5 paragraph, a whole essay, miss, how much words, I can't do that. If you think about writing an essay, as in writing an essay, it's always going to be overwhelming. You have to think of an essay as writing paragraphs. And when you write your paragraphs, you have to think of writing your paragraphs as sentences. You're not writing an essay, you're writing sentences. When you add 1 sentence and 1 sentence and 1 sentence, as old people say, 1 and 1 full basket. So you're going to overwhelm yourself thinking I have to write an essay if you're thinking I have to write an essay. It is best that you break it down into paragraphs, and then you break down those paragraphs into the sentences. And you do not just write random sentences in a paragraph. Each paragraph has a natural development of sentences. So each sentence has a specific function within that paragraph. You don't just put sentences in there. So as long as you have a checklist of the sentences that you will need, it will not be difficult for you to compose that paragraph rather than simply putting sentences upon sentences. Okay? So let's go with the sentence that students get a lot of workload. That teachers should not be giving students extra homework because of the excessive workload. So if we look at it, right, who would we be trying to convince? We're obviously not trying to convince the students because students don't want homework. So obviously we're trying to convince educators. So the first thing we start off in our paragraph with is obviously we indent, and we will start off with a transition word. Now our transition word is just to help our reader to understand where we are in our essay. So most times people use words like firstly. So I'm going to put firstly there. Firstly, right, comma, and then I am going to introduce my topic, because my first sentence is called a topic sentence. So the first sentence is a topic sentence. This is a sentence that is introducing my topic. Firstly, teachers should limit the workload, or rather teachers should not give homework as the workload is strenuous on students. That's my topic. Full stop. I don't need to go on any further because, like I said, my workload is strenuous. What needs to be said there? Right? Right? Firstly, teachers should not give homework as the workload is strenuous on students. That is my sentence introducing my first point, that excess homework is a strenuous workload on students. Right? That will suffice. My second sentence is my rationale. What is my rationale? My rationale is my reasoning. What sort of reasoning do I have that I consider this homework to be strenuous? I am going to explain that, right? So I can then say, when teachers give students work, right? This work requires students to take time away from family and chores to complete, which is stressful on the student. So here I have my second sentence. So my topic sentence is a sentence that is introducing my topic, right? So every paragraph is, you break paragraphs based on the topic that is being discussed. Every paragraph has a mission. If this paragraph is to introduce this particular top point and develop this point, that's the mission of this paragraph. And the paragraph will have a topic. So for my introductory paragraph, the purpose is to introduce. At the end of that paragraph, I should know everything about my broad topic that I need to know about. The next paragraph is introducing my next point. That point would be the topic of my sentence. That topic is homework is strenuous. The workload is strenuous. That's my topic. That's what this paragraph is going to deal with. So I introduce that. Firstly, teachers should not give homework as the workload is strenuous on students. What is my rationale when I say strenuous on students? When teachers give students work, this work requires students to take time away from family and chores to complete, and this is stressful on the students. That's my rationale. That's why I say it is strenuous. Now you will have to show now, using factual data, where this is evident in research, right? So your next sentence is going to be the research that you did. So Fossey said they don't require you to walk with a laptop and do research in the examination. So sometimes we have to make up facts. But these facts must still sound like factual facts. So we fabricate facts, right? But make them sound realistic. You cannot do this for your SBA. Yet part of your SBA requires you to do actual research. They are marking the research. Unlike in the examination where the research data is not marked, only the research presence, meaning once you have a sentence with research presented, you get the mark. The presence of the research is marked in the essay. For the SBA, the actual research is marked. So you cannot fabricate facts for the research, for the SBA. But let's fabricate a fact and see how we fabricate facts. So I go ahead and said, according to the American Psychological Association, right, 80% of students who get work assigned at home suffer academic burnout. Academic burnout. By the second trimester of the term. By the second trimester of the school year, or the second term. Right? By the second trimester of the school year, students suffer burnout from assigned work. Let me put due to overload. So here I have a psychologist that is saying what I want to say. I want to say that excess work causes burnout and stress. This is why I don't think that you should give students work. Here is my work. I didn't say this. The American Psychological Association gave these digits. They must have done a study. So here I have the American Psychological Association determining that, hey, too much work on students can cause burnout. This is my factual data. Now, it's not enough for me to give factual data to say burnout is caused by this. Now, I have to use a persuasive... Okay, go inside. You have to use bring it, let me see. You have to use a persuasive technique. What persuasive technique can we use here? What persuasive technique can we use here? I can use cause and effect. Okay? So let me show you how cause and effect is used. Yes, we did an essay on cause and effect. Cause and effect is a whole essay, but it's also a persuasive technique. Because here I'm showing 80% of students who get work assigned. They can't function because they're suffering from burnout. So I'm gonna start with my transition word. Therefore. My transition word therefore is now telling me, based on my rationale and the data I presented, I'm going to show you where I got where I got my opinion from. Therefore, if students, because I'm presenting this hypothetical cause and effect, if students are suffering from burnout due to homework overload, these students cannot perform optimally, right? That's a word there, optimally, if you don't know what that means. Optimally means to their best ability. when faced with regular stresses such as tests or exams, which causes poor grades or poor performance, and so the homework did not contribute to better performance, but instead the opposite, which is a poor performance. Is this me rationalizing my content well? Is this me rationalizing? So the last part, Cornelia, the last part, I'll read it over and I'll take a picture of the board as usual, because this board is pretty small and I don't think y'all can see it well. I'm not seeing it well. So firstly, teachers should not give homework as the workload is strenuous on students. That's my topic, right? That's the topic. The topic sentence. Firstly, teachers should not give homework as the workload is strenuous on students. The rationale that I'm using, the rationale is just my reasoning. A fancy word for rationale is reasoning. Why you think the work is strenuous, as you say? Well, when teachers give students work, this work requires students to take time away from family and chores to complete, which is stressful on the student. Okay? Students have to take time off from their family, from their chores, which are integral parts of their family life. Right? But I am not the one who came up with this, because my next sentence now is going to be my factual data. So here I have according to, not me saying it. That is the way you introduce that you're giving a quotation of something. You're quoting someone else. You say according to, as stated by, as posited by, so and so states. In your Google Classroom, there is the phrase bank. The phrase bank has all of those phrases that introduce how you're going to give a quotation. I'm just saying according to. So from the time my reader sees according to, they know this is not her work. She's going to state something from somebody. So according to the American Psychological Association, 80% of students who get work assigned at home suffer academic burnout. What is the purpose of this fact? What is the purpose of this information? My next sentence says that I am going to produce my persuasive technique and my link. So when I say my link, I have to link the factual data with my reasoning, and I have to do so in a persuasive way. So that is where the persuasive technique comes in. The persuasive technique comes in when I am linking what I believe and the factual information that is presented. So, therefore, right, if students are suffering from burnout due to work overload, these students cannot perform optimally when faced with regular stresses such as tests or exam, which causes poor grades, and so the homework did not contribute to better performance, but instead the opposite. I presented to you a hypothetical cause and effect situation. Because I'm burnt out and I can't focus well in school, I got poor grades. If the homework is supposed to improve my grade performance, it did not do that. Cause and effect. That is how I use that persuasive technique there. Okay? So can we see how the persuasive technique is used, Cornelia? Do we see how the persuasive technique, Devine? Right? In addition to this, it is not enough for me to just leave this here. I have to then go and repeat my stance. My stance is homework shouldn't be given. It is strenuous on the student. So then my next sentence is going to be my center sentence, right? So I can use another transition word. I'm going to use clearly, right? Clearly. I was going to use clearly. Teachers assume they are doing students a favor by assigning homework but instead they are causing academic burnout which leads to poor grades. This proves homework should not be assigned because it is too strenuous on students. Okay? So clearly, teachers assume that they are doing students a favor by assigning homework, but instead they're causing academic burnout, which leads to poor grades. This proves homework should not be assigned because it is too strenuous on students. Now, this sounds like I'm repeating everything that I said in the paragraph already, and that's because I am repeating everything that I said in the paragraph. Your censure statement is like a mini concluding statement. So if you look at it, on the grand scheme of things, you have your 5 paragraphs, right? So you start with your introductory paragraph, you have your 3 points, and then you have your conclusion. In each paragraph, you also have that same structure. You have your introductory sentence, which is your topic sentence. You have your main points and your research data and your persuasive technique. And then you have your censure statement, which is your conclusion. So everything just happens on a macro and a micro scale. So on the macro scale, I introduce, I explain, I reinforce, and I reiterate. I introduce, I explain, I reinforce with factual data, whatever logos that I'm using, whatever logical information I'm using, and then I reiterate, I restate. On the larger scale, that's exactly what the essays are doing, paragraph by paragraph. Okay? So when I go on to my second sentence, my second paragraph in the body now, which would be my third paragraph in the essay, I am going to repeat this same structure. I'm going to repeat the same structure. So the next point, homework being strenuous on students. The next point that Kenelia gave was lack of resources, right? So the next point that she gave is lack of resources. My sentences are going to follow the same pattern. My topic sentence will be, secondly, teachers should not give homework as students may not have the resources to complete the homework at home. That's my sentence. Then I am going to explain what I mean when I say this. When teachers give students work at home, they may not have the textbook, they may not have an adult who is versed in the topic to assist them, and they may not have a computer or access to the internet to assist them in getting information, and they may learn the wrong things. Right? Then I'm going to reinforce that with factual information. Right? As stated by, as stated by Dr. Dennis Craig, a linguist from the University of West Indies, students who are taught the wrong thing need at least 3 separate lessons to undo the wrong information that they have learned. Therefore, it is dangerous when students learn on their own and they learn the wrong things on their own. That's Dr. Dennis Craig. Then I have to explain what that means. This means, or we can say this states or this explains, that when students are given homework at home and the home environment does not facilitate independent learning, where the student does not have resources or an adult that is versed in the topic to guide them, students can reinforce wrong information, which can lead to major confusion of the topic and the content, which is detrimental in the examination. That's my next sentence there. Then I can come down and say, therefore, this again proves that teachers assume they are doing students a favor by assigning work, but instead they are causing misinformation, which leads to poor grades, and this proves that students should not be assigned homework as it is confusing for students. You may say, but miss, that sentence sounds exactly like the last sentence. There is a type of persuasive technique called repetition. Repetition, and I love to use my cincher statement as a repetition. Why? It kills 2 birds with 1 stone. 1, when you use your cincher statement as a repetition, it creates a sort of pattern in your reader where they know when you're rounding up a point or they know you're ending off a point. Because this last sentence sounds like the last sentence that you used when you were rounding up the last point. So it must be that you're rounding up this point. So it helps the reader to understand where they are. 2, it cuts down the amount of work you have to do. Because if you're reusing the same phrasing all the time, you don't have to keep coming up with a concluding, like a cincher statement that is impactful. And then 3, it gives them something to remember. It gives the reader something to remember. So in addition to helping them know that you're rounding up a point, it tends to stick more because it is a repeated phrase, repeated throughout the essay. So it helps them to know that, okay, she's rounding up and she's going to move on to a new point. 2, it sticks better in their mind. And 3, it eases up your load because you don't have to keep coming up with statements. And we know sometimes when you are writing, your expression holds you back a lot because you're trying to find the best possible way to say this thing. I always say just say it, right? If you're finding it difficult to say something, just say it. When you're doing your revising and you're looking over your work, you could say, I could have said this a little better, but don't burst your brain trying to figure out how to say this thing while you are drafting. Just say it. And I think the repetition is very good at helping to cut down your workload on getting expressions, right? So with limited expressions used in a tactful way, it's actually beneficial for you in your persuasion. So that's why I like to use my cincher statement. I like to reuse them a lot, right? Thank you very much, Devine. I'm glad that you are understanding. So for this class, let me see the time. 15 minutes. I don't know how many of you can write your paragraph in 15 minutes, but I will end the live and then I will await your subscriptions, well, your submissions. Let me say subscriptions, sorry about that. I will end the live and then I will await your submissions at the end of the class. If you're still struggling to get your paragraphs, your topic, your body paragraphs by now, we can arrange for us to do maybe a seminar session, a one-on-one, where you sit and you discuss with me, maybe on a call, or I can do a Zoom with everyone. But I know it's difficult for everybody to get their scheduling down. Some of you working, some of you doing other programs, and some of you are ill. Tekla, I hope your foot is feeling better. Okay, so for the meantime, I will ask just that you attempt your one paragraph. I don't want to see the three. I don't want you to make mistakes and repeat those mistakes. I want us to focus on the one. So let me see your topic. Let me see your introductory paragraph, and then let me see your first topic paragraph, which is your first body paragraph. So let's review what we did for today's class, and that would be all for today. So we said that by now in your persuasive writing, you should have already established what is your topic. You should have already done the pre-writing process, which is gathering your research data, organizing your information in a logical sequence, categorizing them accordingly, and coming up with your thesis statement. Now that you have your thesis statement, we're moving into the body. This is what the body looks like. So the body requires you to have at least 5 sentences. Remember, each paragraph is just comprised of sentences. Sentences are comprised of words. Words are comprised of letters. You add letters together, you get a word. You add words together, you get a sentence. You add sentences together, you get a paragraph. You add paragraphs together, you get an essay. Not that hard, right? Good. So now we're looking at what is required in a body paragraph. A body paragraph requires that your first sentence be your topic sentence. Introduce what you're talking about. I have introduced it here, my transition word, to let my audience know where we are. Firstly, teachers should not give homework as the workload is strenuous on students. My second sentence is my rationale, my reasoning. How did you come up with this opinion? Right? Well, when teachers give students work, this work requires students to take time away from home and chores to complete, which is stressful on the student. That's my reasoning. It's strenuous because they have to take time away from other things that are important as well. Who says this, or who tell you that this is an accurate assessment? Well, according to the American Psychological Association, 80% of students who get work assigned at home suffer academic burnout by the second trimester of the school year due to overload. Okay, so they suffer overload. What I have to do? That could be anything. That could be other problems. That could be abuse. That could be they just don't like the teacher. That could be they just don't like school. But what is the importance of this information? Well, I'm going to show you the link. I am going to link the information, my factual data, with a persuasive technique. Now, my persuasive technique is just a very tactful way that I'm going to present the information that's going to make you, the audience, take my opinion. So what that is, I'm using cause and effect. I'm going to show where this burnout is caused by homework. Therefore, so my transition word, therefore, if students are suffering from burnout due to homework overload, these students cannot perform optimally when faced with regular stresses such as tests or exam, which causes poor grades. And so the homework did not contribute to better performance, but instead the opposite. So I am trying to show you where, based on these American psychologists who conducted these studies that say that homework causes burnout, burnout leads to stress, stress leads to poor exam performance. Why am I giving children homework? Why am I giving students homework? That's my persuasive technique there. I show you a chain of events, cause and effect, in a hypothetical situation, and I show you how illogical this thing is. Right. What's my next sentence? I have to link it all. It's not enough for me to just state this, so you're telling me all this information for? Well, I say this to say, clearly, teachers assume they are doing students a favor by assigning homework, but instead, they're causing academic burnout, which leads to poor grades. This proves homework should not be assigned because it is too strenuous on students. Tell me I lie. Tell me I lie. I just gave you why I don't think the students should get homework based on my own reasoning, what I sit down and reason for myself. I just gave you research data from American Psychologists for the Psychologists Association that prove that homework can be stressful on students. Stress never good for exams, never good for good grades. So therefore, if this thing is causing stress, we need to eliminate it. Tell me I'm wrong. And this is how you win an argument, by structuring your work like this. Your other two paragraphs are going to follow the same pattern. It's going to have these same 5 sentences and it is going to repeat the same pattern. What will change is your point, the different rationale that you may have, the different research data you may have, and a different persuasive technique. Your censure statement can be repeated and rephrased because repetition is also a persuasive technique that is very good. It helps you to limit the amount of words you have to come up with, the amount of expressions that you have to come up with, and it also helps the reader to know that you're wrapping up, as well as to reinforce certain statements in their mind. You remember things when they're repeated over and over. So if you have any problems, let me know. Thank you very much for attending this class, and I am looking forward to your contributions of your body paragraphs. Those of you who have not submitted your introductory paragraphs as well. So your introductory paragraph and your first body paragraph. Kenia, I hope that you have seen the areas where you need to improve based on what you did. But like I said, you did a very good try. And I was very impressed with how you structured your work. It did follow the structure. It was just missing a few things here and there. If there are no questions, I can go ahead and end the live. Thank you very much for joining me. I will take a picture of the board after. I'm just making sure that no comments are coming in before I end the live.